Hello, China.
Hello, Donald.
You better stop helping Iran.
Okay.
Oh, we're gonna do something really big.
Okay.
New tariffs.
Okay.
Like 1,000,000% this time, possibly 2 million.
Okay.
Okay, what?
I just said okay.
What do you mean, okay? Like, okay, you're gonna stop doing what I asked you, or okay, like you're not?
Yes.
You really drive a hard bargain, you know that, Mr. Shi?
Could you let some Chinese boats through the Strait of Hormuz?
You mean the blockade of the blockade that's meant to open the strait by closing it?
Yes.
All right, forget the tariffs and we'll do the boats, but you gotta give me something very big next time I see you.
What's that?
A hug?
No.
No?
A big hug.
A big fat one.
Done.
Ha! Still got it.
Public regime.
10, 3, and...
Somewhere in the bowels of a city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Vostradamus.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Straight ahead, former Super Hornet pilot Mike Garcia with the latest on Iran. William Biagni, Death to America on America's campuses. Zach Smith with his review of the Supreme Court. And Patrice Onwuka going beyond tax day. Sketch comedy from the Puppet Regime, the Babylon Bee, Nick Peterson, and Aaron Wexler. And she's back. It's Lainey Wilson in the spotlight. And now from Times Square, where Zoran Mamdani needs $30 million to build a grocery store, the same kind that Aldi's can build for $3. Here's the Kevin.
So refreshing. I'm not going to tell you what's in there because this is a family show. We want to be good examples for everybody. But I do want you to get a peek at the brand new That Kevin Show mug. Take a look at this because on the back it's a collector's item because it is America 250. That right there, my friend, that is where it's all at. And we are going to give one away next week on the radio show. If you would like to register for your chance to win one of the America 250 signature That Kevin Show mugs, just send us an email to thatkevinshow@gmail.com. Put mug in the subject line and then put your physical address in the body so we know where to send it if we draw your name. Silly. We can't send it to you if you don't give us your address. But if you tell us where to send it and we draw your name and you win, then you've got an America 250. Man, these are sharp. And they're a lot bigger than the old mugs. The old mugs, you could barely get like one good cup of coffee in here. I can get a solid Americano and 2 more espressos in there, all in one cup. Why I would need that caffeine, I have no idea. My people have been asking me that for a while, but that's what I can do. It's just good to know it can be done. Welcome to the weekend. We've got a lot to get to. I want to go back to something Mr. Pipe said in the entry there, and it's true. Did you see this week? I didn't understand Zoran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, but I asked my national radio audience about it this week. But it's like he's bragging about the fact that he is going to tax people for their homes more than they're already being taxed, and that he wants to build. Help me walk this through. He comes to the public of New York, and says, I'm going to build a grocery store for $30 million. And in that grocery store, there will be a basket of essentials. Cucumbers. Eggs. Okay. Milk. Bread. Okay. Cucumbers. Oh, well, okay. Basket of essentials. And whatever's in that basket of essentials, you will be able to buy that for less money than you would buy at other grocery stores. Okay, so he's going to artificially deflate the price and take a loss. We understand how that works. But why is he doing that? And if that's the case, how do you pay for your electricity and your workers that work in the store? You're going to make them work for free. Is this like real socialism? Is this like real communism? Like you're just going to, hello, comrade, you will go to work for the grocery store now. I don't quite follow the logic. And then I find out, after hearing all of that, then I learn that Aldi's, and for those of you that don't have Aldi's in your neighborhood, I feel bad for you, because when I was a very struggling young man breaking my way into media, living on my own, living in some of the not so nice parts of Chicago at the time, I had a friendly little Aldi's in my neighborhood, and I could go get a ton of food for not very much money. Now, I'm not going to say it was like Whole Foods or like, any fancy kind of grocery store, but plenty of good food to eat to eat on and to live off of. And my grocery bill was very, very small. That was back when I was, struggling and trying to pay for an apartment and doing what I could do. But the Aldi's can build a grocery store for less than a tenth of what he can build a grocery store for. And then they've already got the low prices that probably he can't beat. He probably cannot get his basket of essentials less priced than the Aldi's. So why is he doing this? And then he had the gall at some point in the week to look at the camera and make fun of Margaret Thatcher, who said the problem with socialism is that you always run out of other people's money. Evidently, he thinks he's not going to run out of other people's money. Evidently, he thinks there's enough people in New York that are just going to keep paying for whatever he decides to charge them taxes for, that they're just going to do that. Well, I saw my friend John Catsimatidis, one of the wealthiest men in the country, billionaire, New York's favorite billionaire, good guy. I saw him this week on Fox Business say to Stuart Varney that what's going to happen is all the wealthy people are going to leave New York. Now, I find that surprising because, as far as I know, John Catsimatidis has taken an oath to never leave New York. He is like, he came as a child from Greece and grew up learning how to do the grocery business, and he runs the two most successful grocery chains in the city. And I also happen to know this about he and Margot. They give a lot of food away to food banks and people that need it, and there is such generosity in that operation. And I don't know that his grocery stores have ever turned a profit. John does a lot of other businesses. He's into media. He's got some oil. He's doing a whole real estate. He's building huge skyscrapers. He's doing all kinds of stuff. So if his grocery stores don't do super well, he can cushion that because he's productively producing in other industries. What is Zoran Mamdani productively producing in, besides just taking from people that do not owe him anything? It is really bizarre and crazy to think that this country is on the verge of turning itself over to that kind of nonsense. So he's going to tax your house more than what the state of New York's already taxing it. And he wants $30 million to be a loss leader of a grocery store where he's going to give you cucumbers for less than market value. I don't understand any of that. There's a lot I don't understand in the world. I don't understand how the Ayatollahs walked away from the peace negotiations last week. But supposedly they're back this weekend with a blockade cutting off all of their physical ability to make money. And, oh, by the way, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent got into all of their accounts in their neighbors' countries. So, all the ones in the Middle East that Iran's been washing money through, they were like, hey, you want to check into this? We think this is their account. And the U.S. is just saying, yeah, sure, give it. We'll take it. I mean, Obama gave them pallets of cash. Maybe we should take pallets of cash back. Might be fair. Very interesting, though, to see what's going to happen this weekend. And I hope it's good news, because the people of Iran deserve better, and the people of America are ready to welcome home their heroes after a hugely successful jaunt in the Middle East. Speaking of which, it was tax day this week. Patrice Onwuka is going to join us in the second hour today to tell us about what exactly it meant. Millions more dollars in taxes being returned and refunded back to the American people. When you take that with the foreign policy success, with the social issue success, getting boys out of the locker room of the girls and all the rest of this stuff, Do you really believe that the Republicans are just going to shrivel up and die in this upcoming election? I mean, they've kept a lot of promises. A lot. We've got some great sketch comedy for you today. We've got Babylon Bee back with a little spoof on the Pope. We've got Nick Peterson in classic Nick Peterson form. We've even got a new comedian that we're going to introduce to you tonight or today. Erin Wexler is her name, but it's not spelled the way you think it's spelled. Erin Wexler going to join us as well. And then we've got lots of stuff to look at. Supreme Court just wrapped up shop. We're going to get into what all they may accomplish this year yet. But that's for your weekend. It is That Kevin Show, and it's an enormous one, so come on back.
Back to That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show. ThatKevinShow.com, ThatKevinStore.com if you want the fancy new America 250 mug. And if you have not registered to win one, drop an email to ThatKevinShow.com at gmail.com. We will draw a name a week from Friday. Just for kicks, just to celebrate America 250. Someone who's going to celebrate America 250 in grand style is Patrice Onwuka from the Independent Women's Forum. She's their economic VP. She handles all the economic data and policy discussions. And Patrice, you've been a friend of the show for a long time. Appreciate you coming back. We had tax day this week, and I said this to you off air. I'll say it on air. Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson were remarkably on point together. This is good. It's good to see leadership saying the same thing at the same time. But how different is this tax day from what we experienced in the 4 previous ones?
Well, this tax day is very different in that we have finally the Americans are feeling the impact of the working families tax cuts. We also call them the One Big Beautiful Bill. A lot of people had heard about no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on car loan interest, and a new deduction for seniors. Well, unless you had already, you weren't feeling that last year, but you suddenly felt that this year, in addition to the standard deduction being increased and made permanent, as well as the child tax credit being made permanent and also increased. And so the summation of the impact is that you had bigger tax refunds. The average up 11% from last year. You had 1 million more people getting tax refunds this year than in previous years.
1 million more Americans getting refunds.
Over 1 million more tax refunds went out this year,
wow.
Which really speaks to, Kevin, the impact, the direct impact, tangible impact of the tax law that I think a lot of people have been lied to about. At best, a lot of mainstream media outlets have not even covered the tax cuts bill, or they've been disingenuous about it. So people are finally learning, oh, there's a lot there in for me, and I'm actually taking home greater pay and bigger tax refunds.
And this is still early in the year because it just kicked in January. So as people are formulating what they're going to be paying, they're going to figure that out. But as we go through the year, Patrice, what other areas of life will the Big Beautiful Bill touch on? Because this is something that I've not been a big fan of omnibus spending bills and big bills that do big things, but I thought that this one kind of like broke the mold for that.
Well, what's interesting is from a growth perspective, what fuels the economy? Not necessarily all of the personal side tax benefits as much as the small business and the corporate side benefits. And so you have full expensing of your investments in your business, which means that you can buy, a new pizza oven for your pizza shop, invest in a new computer as a journalist, as a writer, and then you're able to write that off right away. That's a massive tax incentive that allows you to grow your business. Elevate that to warehouse companies, transportation companies, building warehouses, hiring new people, giving out bonuses. And when you think about some of the other really populist ideas like the Trump accounts for every baby born between last year and the end of 2028, now we're seeing corporations start to actually match money into those Trump accounts as a benefit to workers, as a way to keep them. So I think, and let me not forget the small businesses who also had the permanence of their 199 deduction, which is like 20% of qualified interest. So what does that mean? That means companies can grow. That means small businesses, they can take their tax benefits and grow. And that you're going to see continue throughout the rest of the year, even after people have already spent their tax refunds.
Yeah. I have a theory, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on it. We're seeing, inflated gas prices right now because of the war, although that is likely going to be solved soon. I mean, I can't help but think that between Trump blockading all of the physical access to resources with the blockade, and then Bessent now admitting that all of Iran's neighbors that they were, siphoning money through kind of on the black market, all of the neighbors of Iran are opening up the illegal accounts and turning those monies over. That you've done two big things there that I think are going to really put a lot of pressure on the Ayatollahs that they're already under, on a good election year, they get millions of people marching against them. But Trump has really called their bluff on the straight. We're getting people easily through there now, and we're shutting down their ability to get anything out, and they don't have any more money. So I think that that's going to come to an end.
Yeah, and let's not forget, China has already said we're not going to be providing Iran with any more weapons. Iran needs China's backing and support, and if it doesn't have it, then that's their last lifeline.
So my question on that is, we've felt higher gas prices here in this part of the Trump administration, and after seeing in 2025 them go down significantly from the Biden prices, it felt like we were on the right track. They've kind of shot back up. Is part of the reason maybe why we don't feel that as badly is because of what the big beautiful bill has kind of put around us? Because I hear in the chattering class on the media, but I don't hear among my neighbors people complaining about gas prices the way they did under Biden. And I'm just wondering if we've already offset some of the negative of that because of the big beautiful bill.
Well, it's partly the big beautiful bill, but I also think it's really just the entire Trump agenda, Kevin, the deregulation that has been pricing into the prices we're paying, cutting those core prices. Last week, we saw the government release its inflation data. And yes, while the headline inflation number rose from 2.4% year over year to 3.3%, if you strip out energy costs, which is like the gas prices, and you strip out food, which, by the way, I've even seen beef prices starting to fall, thank goodness. But you strip out those volatile prices, and core prices have actually been pretty stagnant. They're not moving, which is a good thing. And so that tells me that the inflation we're seeing because of the gas prices in Iran is not feeding into or getting embedded into the entire economy and driving up prices for everything. That's a really good position to be in. And so, prices had been coming down, and I do agree with you. This is going to be a temporary gas price increase. I actually just looked at yesterday's gas prices were down over a penny. We're at 409 from 411. And I think if things continue to persist and we start to see global oil prices, which is where we get our U.S. prices from, those global oil prices start to fall, crude oil prices start to fall, it's under $90 a barrel right now, then that means that we're going to see the numbers tick down. Scott Bessent said he's expecting to see a $3 before the average gas price by the summertime. We're not that far off. We're only at about 409 right now. I'm hoping to see a 2 in front of our average gas prices.
Well, it'd be great if we were at 3 by July 4th and maybe 2 somewhere around Labor Day.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be significant.
Now they're seeing, yes, it actually is for me. It's for working class Americans. It's for middle class Americans. And hopefully that will go a long way in alleviating some of those concerns when they're deciding who should stay in power in November.
Okay, when we come back, I've got a complete curveball for Patrice Onwuka. I didn't even tell her I was going to ask her about this, but there's some crazy ideas being floated here in the New York City area. And I kind of want to do an A-B comparison of what those ideas are like versus the stuff that you've heard Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune and the president all talk about in the last few days. It's Kevin McCullough. It's That Kevin Show. And online, it's thatkevinshow.com. Stay here.
Stick around for more of That Kevin next. Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show. Super glad to have you with us. Super glad to have Patrice Onwuka here as well. She's the economic policy expert at the Independent Women's Forum, and that is a group, friends, that I cannot sing the praises of enough. We need IWF in every iteration that because they're pushing forward on all fronts in ways that don't just help women. They help every American with common sense, but they certainly don't overlook women the way much of the rest of the women's movement has, ignoring women that disagree with some of their ideological stuff. Independent Women, contrastly, actually helps women on all fronts that they are fighting for. Patrice, I couldn't help but notice that on the day when Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune and the White House are all on message, talking about the impact of the big, beautiful bill, asking people to take a look at their bank statements and seeing what they, how they've benefited from these policies in just these first 4 short months that it's been in place, the amount of income tax rebates that people are going to get, et cetera. You have a mayor and a governor in the state of New York that come out and say 2 things. One, they are going to put a massive tax on everyone who has a house of $5 million or more in New York City that does not make it their primary dwelling. Now, this probably impacts a very small number of people, but I want to include it in the conversation for a specific reason. Then the mayor turns the page and says, yeah, and now we're going to raise $30 million to open a subsidized state-run, municipal-run grocery store that we're going to give people a basket of, well, I think he called it essentials. So cucumbers and eggs and milk, I think, are what he's got in there so far, that they're going to be able to buy at discounted prices over what he's assuming is big grocery and the big meanies that run big grocery. Now, that kind of sounds interesting, and that's certainly something that he ran on, taxing the rich and giving away free groceries. But it's going to cost him $30 million to open a store. When I was a single dad living paycheck to paycheck in Chicago 185 years ago, I went to a little place called Aldi's that was in my neighborhood because it was handy and it was inexpensive. And the food wasn't, it wasn't Whole Foods, but we ate well shopping at Aldi's. And I read somewhere yesterday that Aldi's can open a store for $3 million and the mayor needs to do it for $30 million. Can you please kind of decipher what's really going on here?
So they have figured out they have a problem. They have big ideas and ideals that they're trying to sell to an electorate that got them elected, and the governor wants more support going forward too. And then they have to figure out how do they pay for it. And particularly with a class of high net worth individuals and frankly, going down the income scale to middle class and working class families, how do they pay for it? So you can increase. So, for example, take the $5 million tax on $5 million homes. Well, if those are secondary homes, let's say rentals or vacation homes, that's easy. Sell the home, open up a new home, or buy a new home in Florida, buy a new home in North Carolina, in a beach town. And that problem is the taxpayer is fine because now they don't have to pay this new toll for having a house, and they get to still keep their primary residence there. But the state loses that money that they thought they were going to have. When it comes to the grocery store, I thought this idea was dead when it was tried in what was it, Minnesota, maybe another state.
Kansas City.
Thank you, Kansas City.
And they never made it. They couldn't stay in business.
I'm actually old enough to remember when the government used to have government bread and cheese lines, and they would be wrapped around these buildings where they were giving out free food. This is very analogous. You're trying to give out discounted food that the government is paying for. You're going to have lines wrapped around the city block, and there will be no way that they can afford to keep the shelves stocked to meet the growing demand that they're going to have. So what will you then have is panic and mayhem in the streets, and people realizing this was never going to work to begin with. It's going to be an expensive $30 million project that will probably balloon to $300 million after the first week of being open, if they get that far. And then you're going to have to keep asking for more money. And who do you ask for it from? You either ask for it from the wealthy who start fleeing, or you have to go down the income level to the higher upper middle class, then the middle class, then the working class. And then at some point, you've just run out of money and run out of taxes because, there's not enough people to pay for it that have decided to stay in the state.
Well, Mamdani had the gall to make fun of the Maggie Thatcher quote that you just alluded to there, that the problem with socialism is that you always run out of other people's money. And he made fun of that comment.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. Kevin McCullough, That Kevin Show, thatkevinshow.com for everything. We don't put anything behind a paywall because we want you to have access to it. I'm always tracking with the Campus Reform Group weird stuff that's going on the college campuses, for lack of a better term. I don't know that it gets much more strange than for students to be chanting "Death to America" on American university campuses. Here to discuss is William Biagni, Campus Reform Assistant Editor. We have reported a lot on Emily's reporting here, but William is part of the group there as well. William, explain this. How and where is this taking place?
Right. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's great to be here. So we got this really crazy story today. So for about 5 decades now, Iran has been chanting "Death to America," but we're seeing this crazy phenomenon where these chants are now making their way to college campuses in the United States of America, which is it's surprising to see that our universities, which have been training students up in radical leftist ideology. Well, now we have students that are siding with the super repressive Islamic regime in Iran. So we have this one example at Columbia University where an anti-Israel group linked to that university, it's not 100% affiliated with the university, but it's linked to it, was chanting "Marg Bar America," which is Farsi for "Death to America." We also have students at Yale University that were photographed doing a protest with signs using similar slogans. So we're starting to see students at American universities chanting the very same things that our foreign adversaries are also chanting.
This goes back to President Trump's point to the protests that preceded his reelection, but you've had this kind of permission granted on college campuses to just be as heinous as you want to, especially towards the country that hosts this particular university. And when you bring up common sense suggestions like, well, maybe they shouldn't have their student visas extended when they engage in blatantly anti-American activity, there's always heavy pushback. Is there any sign that there's going to be anything done to groups that chant literally "Death to America"? To me, as I would understand that, if I was in a court of law, these people are expressing a desire for those of us that live in this country to all be killed. This is not like lighthearted fare. I don't even see this as, I see this as more important than yelling "fire" in a crowded theater. We talk about freedom of speech, but death to America?
Right. So here's the thing. Our universities are supposed to be institutions where ideas are thrown back and forth in the pursuit of truth. They're not supposed to be what they are now, which are ideological echo chambers for the left to train students up to hate America hate what it was founded on, and in addition, protest anything that President Trump does. So they don't even look at it anymore. It's just, oh, President Trump takes an action. Oh, let's go protest it. They don't even realize the irony here, which is that these students are protesting in support of a regime that is famous for killing its own protesters. It has slaughtered tens of thousands of them. And it won't stop until we stand up and realize, or stand up and say, hey, our universities, you're not going to teach our students to hate America, hate the country that you were born in, raised in. We need to see intellectual diversity return to higher education, and students need to be taught the reality of.
So I'm going to repeat my question. Are any of these schools taking any action towards the groups that are perpetrating this behavior?
If they are, we will continue to monitor them at the
But they haven't as of yet.
Reform. It's still up in the. We're still seeing this situation ongoing. The whole thing is ongoing. So if something does happen, we will be the first to report on it.
Well, I hope that at least those that are watching or listening to me today, if you're an alumnus of Columbia University, that you call the endowment department and tell them you're not giving any more money to them. Like, I don't want money going to universities. The same with Yale. If there was an incident there, I don't want money going to universities that are going to promote death to America. I'm sorry. I know that makes me crazy and very elitist, but that's the way it is. Now, similarly, there are some groups that are protesting the war in Iran, which doesn't seem to be quite as harsh in my way of thinking as asking, for death to America. But what's going on at Arizona State University?
Right. So we have socialist and pro-Palestinian students at Arizona State University, and they came out with a no war in Iran protest, protesting President Trump's joint strikes with Israel on the Khomeini regime. But what was interesting about this is that this protest was challenged by Iranian students who said that Iran lived under Iranians were living under a dictatorship for over 40 years, and that they actually support international pressure on the regime responsible for widespread human rights abuses. And so this does go back to show that these students are not being taught the reality of these regimes. And as we were mentioning earlier, they're being told death to America. And these are the universities that are in the United States here. And we're beginning to see all of these leftist rallying cries of no war in Iran and anti-Israel. They're all being joined together because our universities don't have intellectual diversity anymore.
I mean, it's so well said, but it's very frightening to think that in the American educational system, this is where we've arrived. And it's angering. I think that people that are listening and watching are probably on some level. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want to see war happen. War is horrible. Big part of the reason President Trump was elected was because he didn't believe in extending, never-ending wars. I don't think he was ever under the impression, nor do I think he ever gave the impression that he'd be ever afraid to use actual military strength when necessary. But the issue here is that this is something that is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunity to topple this dictatorship, this tyranny, really, is what the Ayatollahs were. And when they kill 35,000 of their own just weeks before this, like, what other evidence do people at Arizona State University need to understand the evil that we're dealing with?
I think I stumbled upon something quite recently that I think goes back perfectly to this. I think they should talk to the Iranians themselves. I was in DC a couple of weeks ago, and I stumbled upon a protest against the Khomeini regime that was being led by Iranians. And they were actually celebrating President Trump's actions. So here you have Iranians who are celebrating President Trump and Israel for taking out this brutal, brutal regime. And then you have leftist students who were born and raised in the United States and now chanting death to America for this very same thing. It's disgusting to see that. And, the death to America chants, that is by far the most infuriating thing.
Yeah.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show for the weekend. Privately, if you'd asked me years ago, I would have told you this would have been one of my dream duets. And finally, they've done it. Brandon Lake and Lainey Wilson. Very special collaboration. Take a listen on That Kevin Show.
I was told he was angry, and he hated the music up too loud. I was told he was would save me. If I showed up to church and I shut my mouth, if I smoked, if I drank, if I cussed, I think I was on a long black train to hell. Yeah, I thought I knew him till I met him for myself. But the Jesus I know now ain't shaking a fist, ain't raising a brow. Yeah, the Jesus I know now ain't running away from a party crowd. I found a friend who hangs with the misfits, listens, forgives, then forgives again. Can't believe I was missing out on the Jesus I know now.
The Jesus I Know Now, music from Brandon Lake and Lainey Wilson. Rounding out the first hour of this weekend's That Kevin Show. What a team. And coming up, they will round out, Lainey will round out the show with us at the end of the next hour. Kevin McCullough, Hour 2 is on the way from New York. Stay here.
Hey, get the soundtrack. Search hashtag New Music Spotlight on Spotify or Apple Music.
U.S.-Iran talks are back on, but nobody knows who's gonna make the first move.
After you.
Now after you.
Won't you lift off a sanction or two?
Now after you.
No, after you.
First turn off that centrifuge. Come on, Ali, let's get down to business. Do a deal quick or your regime is finished. Plus, don't forget, you got a big league problem. Bibi wants to bomb you and I might not stop it.
Now look, great Satan, I have to be honest. It's hard to believe an American promise. We once had a deal, it was sealed, no drama. But then you ripped it up just to spite Obama. So after you.
No, after you.
Another Middle East war and you will be screwed.
Not as bad as you.
Bush is sad but true.
Please take me to your centrifuge to stop an Iranian bomb. It's gonna be a whole song and dance, but there's a chance to avoid the worst. As long as you go first, no you.
After you.
No, I insist.
No, I insist.
Now you're making me pissed.
You go first.
Now just a second.
Now I'm getting pretty close to a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, we're gonna stop that very strongly.
Well, I'm not going out like that guy Gaddafi.
Look, I need headlines and you need fun, so let's cut the crap and just take the plunge.
Well, okay. But only
After you. After you. No, after you. Very crafty you.
This Alien bomb, it's gonna be a whole song and dance, but there's a chance to avoid the worst if only you go first.
No, you.
Public regime.
Somewhere in the bowels of a city that never sleeps
Kevin McCullough, radio host with Salem Media,
is a man also not sleeping.
Syndicated radio talk show host Kevin McCullough.
And that guy would like a word with you.
Many of you know him as Votes.
Of course that Kevin show is going to be great. The only thing that could be greater, of course, would be that Donald show. We don't have that, so we have that Kevin show.
Featuring the music of Dick Tunney and the Dream in Color Orchestra. Still to come, Patrice Onwuka on what life looks like beyond tax day. Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation weighing in on the Supreme Court's closing season schedule. More sketch comedy from the Puppet Regime, the Babylon Bee, Nick Peterson, and Aaron Wexler. And she's back. Lainey Wilson returns to the spotlight. And now from Times Square, where blue state governors tax your tips, your overtime, and apparently your ambition, here's that Kevin.
Time to Guess Weekend. I'm Kevin McCullough. The world once again balances on the edge of the Strait of Hormuz, where a potential U.S.-Iran conflict, Israeli tensions, and a possible blockade have everyone on high alert, especially anyone who enjoys driving. Officials say a ceasefire is within reach, which in diplomatic terms means we're one misunderstanding and a bad Wi-Fi signal away from $9 gas and a group text nobody can mute. Back home, chaos is trending. Illegal street racing takeovers are erupting across cities, with hundreds swarming intersections, doing donuts and fleeing police. Authorities say they're cracking down, but so far the only thing moving faster than the cars is the suspects' Instagram follower accounts. In a scene that somehow feels symbolic, a truck crash released 1 million bees onto a highway, shutting it down for hours. Experts say the bees were disoriented and aggressive, basically commuters with wings. In aviation news, a UPS cargo plane aborted a landing to avoid a near miss at an airport still haunted by a deadly crash last year. The FAA says safety protocols worked perfectly, which is comforting, assuming you enjoy phrases like near miss at 30,000 feet. Health experts now warn your favorite snacks could be quietly destroying your knees. That's right, turns out it's not aging, gravity, or years of bad decisions, it's the chips. Somewhere a treadmill just filed a defamation lawsuit. On Capitol Hill, a Democratic lawmaker made headlines by angrily yelling about former President Trump, because nothing says thoughtful policy debate like primetime cable meltdown energy. Meanwhile, Justice Clarence Thomas warned that progressivism poses a threat to democracy in remarks so rare they were immediately treated like a Marvel post-credit scene. In New York, an NBA star is clapping back at the mayor over skyrocketing playoff ticket prices. The mayor blamed the league blamed demand, and fans blamed their bank accounts, proving once again that the only thing more competitive than the playoffs is affording them. Then there's the mystery story of the week. The 11th scientist connected to sensitive U.S. information has now been reported dead or missing. Officials insist there's no pattern, which is exactly what you say right before the documentary drops. In media circles, new scrutiny is hitting Congressman Eric Swalwell over what critics are calling an open secret involving relationships that somehow went unreported for years. Washington responded the only way it knows how, by acting surprised and scheduling absolutely no consequences. Hollywood check, Top Gun 3 is reportedly in development because apparently we've run out of ways to defy gravity, but not nostalgia. And Reese Witherspoon is warning that AI could replace women in the workforce at 3 times the rate of men. Tech leaders responded by saying they're committed to equality by replacing everyone eventually. And finally, if you're feeling overwhelmed, global tension, swarming bees, collapsing knees, mystery scientists, just remember somewhere, someone is still organizing a street takeover and calling it community engagement. For Assignment Desk Weekend, I'm Kevin McCullough.
Good for border visit photo ops. AOC also buys our invisible handcuffs. We don't sell many, but good profit margins. My slogan here at the prop shop is, I make it, you fake it. Your one-stop shop for discrimination, desperation, and virtue signaling. Handmade steel costumes. Which reminds me, I am out of XXX's. My name's Nick Peterson, and I sell props for political theater. My job is to create the essence of performative moments. That way they can just focus on acting. 200 white pantsuits before the next State of the Union address. I don't know if I'll have enough fabric for all their hijabs. I opened this shop in early 2017. Congressional acting was on the rise, which proved effective since common sense was on the decline. Let's see, fake chains, prop COVID masks for politician group photos, release the file pins. Ironically, the people who buy these voted no on releasing sexual misconduct reports about themselves. You might wonder, why do people fall for fake theatrics over and over? Well, why does your dog fall for the fake throw every time? The dumber society gets, the richer I get. Here we have seat cushions for Democrats, for when the president acknowledges our servicemen, survivors, that kind of thing. Think about this. What do the founder of the pet rock, pyramid schemes, socialism have in common? They had the foresight to capitalize on stupidity. Wait. Don't forget your flag. Jackpot. We keep just about every country in stock. But the key is to instantly bulk order any country that Trump has beef with. We sell out of most of them. Except the American ones. They never seem to want those. As these people became more ideologically fluid, as they would call it, I had to learn Photoshop pretty quickly. You have to adapt in a forever evolving flag world. It's also exhausting. And I don't know what the connection between what people like to do in the bedroom and economic systems is, but anything to be different, I guess. When I was a kid, we'd just wear Jinkos. To be honest, it's really sad that there's so many people out there willing to commit all their time and money to theatrical nonsense. It makes me really sad.
People on the right who are saying that immigrants and their kids are taking jobs away from Americans. They're saying it's not true that they're not willing to do those jobs. They're willing to pay more for that work even. And then they go and give every job they don't want to do to Marco Rubio. Dude, he is so much more than the Secretary of State. He's the interim NSA head. He's in charge of the National Archives. Trump just appointed him to lead the World Expo, right? Next president. So typical to have the Hispanic cabinet member cleaning up the mess of everyone else, you know? The dude has like 27 jobs in the admin, but they're still only paying him for one of them.
Ready or not, we'll be right back. That Kevin. Now, back to that Kevin show. Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to That Kevin Show from Times Square. Glad to have you with us. Thank you to the Salem Media Group that has us now on like 700 stations Monday through Sunday across the country. And we are so excited to be able to bring really expert guests on to talk about the issues that you care about and what's going on in the world. And my next guest is no slouch. Mike Garcia, first-generation American, served his nation in combat. He's a Navy guy, flew the Super Hornet. He has seen it all, but he's also served in Congress. He's a businessman. He's a native of California. What that state's gone through in just recent years, I think people that still have their head held high have to have like a Medal of Honor or something. But Mike, it's good to see you again. Thanks for coming back.
Good to see you, Kevin. Yeah, we've been paying $7 a gallon of gas out here for several years, regardless of what's going on in the Middle East.
It's really sad that your governor is like the dumbest man on the planet, but he thinks he's the smartest. And then the guy that I think they were getting ready to, crown in his place, Mr. Swalwell, is just a rascal. Like you think of like the fact that Ronald Reagan came from California, and man, have we fallen off since then. It's just,
we have fallen quite a ways here. So,
it's not, and my wife's from there. Like, so this is something that's very personal to us. And, she's like, can we ever move back? I'm like, no. Yeah. I mean, she goes, but the weather. I said, yeah, but that's the only thing. The politics, the business environment, it's all. But that's what happens when you have one party government, and that's what you guys are wrestling through now. So we're going to keep.
Yeah, and I want to just make a quick point on that. I'm chair at America First Policy Institute, and one of the things in California, especially, is that the goal isn't necessarily to save California, but it's to prevent the country from turning into California. Yeah. And I think that's why the other 49 states need to pay attention to what's going on here. And Newsom may be uploaded to the federal level here and become everyone's problem if we don't pay attention. So we're putting a bright light out here on it.
What is just like to have such utter failure in a human being, and to walk around and to pretend like it's nothing but a success. I mean, it really is naked the emperor with no clothes. Yeah, and it's full blown hubris. I mean, the guy is arrogant. There's no excellence. It's just arrogance. And he touts California being the fourth or fifth largest GDP on the planet, but we should be the third, second, maybe even if things were done correctly. And the exodus, the population loss here, the businesses leaving, even liberal businesses are leaving California now because it's insufferable. So well, when your little smelt fish prevented the Palisades from that's right surviving, absolutely heartbreaking. That tells you everything you need to know about priorities, and they're really a mess. So we're going to keep praying for California every single day. Got a lot of family there, so it's hard. You're a Navy guy. You were in Operation Iraqi Freedom. I'm sure that the people that you're talking to have a lot of opinions about Epic Fury and what we've done so far and how it's gone. This weekend, there was supposed to be some negotiations, and I said this from this microphone and this camera all last week. The only posture for the Iranians is to show up, basically say, I'm really sorry. We shouldn't have done any of this stuff. Please, show mercy to us, and we'll do whatever you ask. And the exact opposite happened. It's like they have no real idea or real clue of how to read the room at all. And the difference is they're now reading the room, assuming that the president is going to act like past presidents have. That's a bad assumption. And that they're going to somehow escape through this. What do you make of what you're watching play out in front of you, Mike? Yeah, I mean, you nailed it on the head, Kevin. You've got an isolated, tyrannical regime with no opposition force that has been operating under this construct that they can do whatever they want to their country, to their population. They're a mafia family is what they are. Truly are, at a whole new level with the capability and the funding, frankly, to develop nuclear weapons, right? Which is why this Operation Epic Fury began. They got to a point within days, maybe a couple of weeks of what's called nuclear breakout timing, which is the ability to get to 90% uranium enrichment. So that was the reason for this operation getting kicked off. And it's a very noble, very necessary mission. I'm sure something that the president didn't take lightly and didn't want to do. But frankly, we know how much he hates war. Like
he is the president of peace, and but this would have been the ultimate catalyst for instability globally if we had a nuclear armed Iran, right? So this had to be done. Tactically, I'd say the execution of the operation now going into 6 weeks has been done flawlessly by our military. There's been hiccups. There's been lessons learned. There's been ways to get better. That's true for any combat operation. I've seen it firsthand. But kudos to
I wanted to ask you about that specifically because Iraqi Freedom and Epic Fury, there's a lot of comparisons. People are like, oh, we're going to be stuck in a ground war forever. This is going to be a forever war. When you look at and it wasn't that Iraqi Freedom was executed poorly, but when you look at how efficient Epic Fury was, it just seems to me like it was a whole different level of execution.
Yeah, I mean, we've had really 47 years, but frankly, in earnest, 15 years to put a plan in the can against Iran, right? Iraq was a different story, relatively short lead times. Strategically, we didn't have the clear objectives. It was sort of this ambiguous thing under the administration then about why we were there, what we were doing. You had the president get on an aircraft carrier saying, declaring victory basically after a few weeks, and then it got really blurry after that. We don't have those condition sets. We knew exactly how to take down Iran. We knew the location of their nuclear infrastructure facilities, which was target number one. We knew, for the most part, the locations of their short-range and medium-range ballistic missiles. So the flawless execution of our military, unfortunately, we lost some service members along the way. So we thank them and their service, all folks in uniform. But the actions of our troops is what gave our negotiation team the leverage at the table over the weekend. And all wars end at a table. Unfortunately, one of the condition sets needed for negotiating a peace agreement is to have rational actors on both sides of the table. And to your point that you started with, Kevin, I don't think the leadership of the Iranian regime are rational actors. I don't think they're motivated by what we would consider normal, inspirations and motivations. They're not rational. They don't care, frankly, about the existence or the continued existence of their population. They do treat this like an existential threat, but only against their power and to their fundamentalist regime beliefs, not to their country, not to their resources, and certainly
Is
not.
it almost because they believe that they're doing Allah's will?
Yes.
That they're okay with all dying too. Like,
yeah.
So why should their people, who aren't really their people, but why should their people be any other more concerned than they are? Like, if they all die, they all die. That's kind of how they're approaching this.
Yeah, and they're actually incentivized by martyrdom, right? Not necessarily themselves, but they're happy to offer up proxies, as they would say. And I would say there's no such thing as proxies. The Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, these are part of Iran tentacles. They're all one and the same, but they do relish in martyrdom. So they're not motivated by death. They actually are one of their measures of merit. For instance, the Houthis in Yemen is, how many rockets, how many missiles are expended on them as a result of their actions of disruption, right? So when you have a mentality like that, it's tough to negotiate with. This is why the old mantra of don't negotiate with terrorists exists, because they're motivated by different things. Now, what they are motivated by are not only the things that we've been cranking, which is the kinetic and the military, but the biggest fear of the Iranian regime is frankly losing the power, and that comes in the form of oil.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. From New York, That Kevin McCullough.
What have the children eaten today?
Solo tomates con tortilla. Only tomatoes with tortilla.
Are they still hungry?
Ahorita dice que no porque se calma ahorita. Right now they are hungry. They want food and we don't have money enough to get to the whole week.
How does it make her feel when she can't feed her children?
Pues me siento muy triste. It made me feel sad. Sometimes I get in my room by myself and I cry. I wonder how can I make their life better and have more money in order to give them food. I don't want my sons and my daughters to suffer.
Another real life story of a mom who faces that kind of, I don't know, Paul Jacobs, I consider it kind of a form of anxiety and torture. Like if you're a parent, the thing that keeps you up at night is what is good for my kids? What do I need to do to make sure my children are okay? And that story by a woman named Myrna Yolanda is one of those where you could put yourself in her shoes. Any mom listening right now could see themselves in that same situation and imagine the angst, the anger, the doubt, the wonder. Will I be able to help my children this week? She said, I don't have enough money for this week. That's just got to be something that is so overwhelming. And yet Food for the Poor is an answer to so many prayers like that.
Mothers like my own, going through hard times. It's one thing for them to go through, and a mother will take on this, bear this weight, this pain, whatever it may be. But when it involves their children, there is a desperation and a fear and an anxiety that strikes a mother's heart like something we can't even understand. Myrna is no different. When we visited her home, what was striking to her, she put on a very good face. And her children, her small children, there were 3 children there. Her husband was out to work. He works 7 days a week, barely earns $2 a day. What was really touching her and what caused her the greatest anxiety was when her 6-year-old boy tugs on her and says, "Mommy, can I go to work with Daddy so that my little baby sister doesn't cry because she's hungry?" 6 years old. And this is why she says that I get fear because, and I can't do anything. I can't show that fear to my children. So I find myself away and I cry in the corner of our room. These mothers, like you listening right now, like you watching us right now, you have experienced pain in your own right, or maybe you've seen your parents struggle, and you can identify and understand a mom who cannot feed her children. That particular trip when we visited Myrna Yolanda after that interview, she took us across this little dirt path where she has this other shack where she keeps this barrel. Think of like your garbage can you take out to the street every Tuesday or every Saturday, and it was a barrel of water. This is where her water was. And she says, this is what I have to clean, to bathe my children, and to drink. And when I looked inside and I took this little cup and I cupped this water, I saw literally bugs and sediment. You could see every bit of sediment inside this water, and she can't boil it enough to make it clean. And this is what the plight of mothers like Myrna Yolanda that is going through right now, why you're so vitally important. I want to say a special thank you because we've had some, I don't know if they're moms or not, but they are definitely coming to the rescue of moms like Myrna Yolanda. Jennifer from Sandy, Oregon. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer's giving for the very first time to Food for the Poor. Thank you,
Jennifer. Welcome.
Betty Joe from League City, Texas. Thank you, Betty Joe. Also,
Texas in the house today. We've seen several.
That's exactly right. We've had Kathy from Lansing, Michigan. Thank you, Kathy. God bless you. And Jacqueline from Brooklyn, New York.
Hey, hometown girl.
Thank you, Jacqueline. All of these ladies giving at the call center, calling that toll-free number 855-907-4673, making their best gift and saving lives, but also helping just take a little bit of that pressure off moms like Myrna Yolanda.
Well, I want to give you another reason why right this minute is important. We have been notified that for the next 10 minutes, every single gift that comes in will be matched. We've got a food and a water match on for every child we can take care of in this next 10 minutes. So I need you to go to the phone and do the best you can. 855-907-4673. And by that, I mean, if you're a small business owner and you know that your company's going to have a big, tax rebate coming because, the big, beautiful bill's in or whatever, take advantage of making a difference
for eternity, and give your best gift. If you can give $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, that multiplies by double right now in terms of the number of children that we can help. And friends, if you can't do that, if you can do $75, you're going to go from helping one child to two children, $150 from two children to four children, $300 from four children to eight children, whatever God impresses upon you. This is the opportunity to maximize.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough. Here he is from New York. That Kevin McCullough.
Welcome back to Times Square. It's Kevin McCullough. Glad to have you with us. Always glad to have Zach Smith join us from the Heritage Foundation, doing a great job watching the Supreme Court and other legal matters for them, as he is gifted to do. And Zach, we've had I know there's a war on, and there's lots of it's election years, a lot of stuff going on. People may not be paying attention to the Supreme Court docket very closely. Right. But in just the last couple of weeks, we have had some blockbusters be heard, and we expect some decisions, maybe, I guess, the first part of the summer, on things like the election day. Does the word day mean day in the Constitution? Birthright citizenship and some other things. What are you making of the court's final kind of run here at all these cases?
Well, buckle up. The decisions are going to come fast and furiously. And to your point, Kevin, on the Election Day case, it can only come from a group of lawyers to argue that Election Day doesn't actually mean a single day. And so the case you're talking about is a very important case. It's Watson versus RNC. It's actually a challenge to Mississippi's law, which allows for ballots, absentee ballots, to be received and counted for up to 5 days, business days, after Election Day itself. And essentially, what the RNC, the Libertarian Party of Mississippi, and several other plaintiffs who are challenging that law are arguing is that, look, when Congress stepped in and passed a statute, as it can in certain circumstances, and said that there needs to be a uniform federal election day where we elect members of Congress, where we select the electors for the presidential election, that election day means that ballots should be received and counted no later than that date. Now, it's a sad state of affairs that this case had to make its way all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, but because many states, particularly blue states, allow in some cases weeks after Election Day for ballots to be received and counted, this is a very important case that the justices decided to hear.
I think without any question, and this is my opinion, not yours, not Heritage, not Salem, not anybody. This is just KMC, good old KMC. But I believe without any doubt that if this standard had been being followed in 2020, and if we had had what is in the Save America Act, so you register to vote by having an ID that says you're a citizen, and then you take that ID with you when you vote. I think if this case, Election Day is day, nothing after, and those parameters in Save America Act had been in place, I think President Trump would have slaughtered Joe Biden in the final count. The problem was you had, as you said, blue states that were like, oh, well, he's up 100,000 here. Oh, and suddenly there's 115,000 ballots that came in, 99-1, in this big box of stuff, two weeks later. It's just, there's so many... and for everybody that argues there's no fraud, there's zero fraud in the system. If there is, then why do we have to have these court cases? Why do we have to have this discussion? Why are we belly aching about showing our picture and proving that we're a citizen when we cast a vote? I do it when I go to the store and use my credit card. I do it when I register for a library card. There's no reason why this shouldn't take place. And what was your read on the way the justices asked and answered and responded to questions that day? To me, it felt pretty solid that they are probably going to find in favor of Election Day, meaning day.
Well, I joke my crystal ball is cloudy, Kevin. When it comes to reading the tea leaves at the Supreme Court, it can be hard to tell sometimes which way the justices are leaning, but I certainly think at least some of the justices are very sympathetic to the challenge and the argument that these plaintiffs will bring.
The word means the word. All right. Birthright citizenship. What's your take on what they had argued in front of them, and do you want to do any kind of handicapping on that?
Yeah, obviously an incredibly consequential decision, regardless of what the justices decide. Look, I think it doesn't come as a surprise. Solicitor General John Sauer, who is arguing for the government, faced a barrage of very hostile questions from many of the justices. But the administration's position is well supported. It is not a frivolous position. There's recently been a number of very respected law professors who have come out saying essentially that the president is taking the legally correct position in his arguments before the Supreme Court. So look, we'll have to wait and see what the justices do. It does seem like many of them were hostile to some degree to the administration's position, but it should be remembered when we talk about birthright citizenship, the key phrase is subject to the jurisdiction thereof. The 14th Amendment says anyone born or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction thereof of the United States shall be a citizen. And essentially what the Trump administration has been arguing is that that has a very particular meaning. It essentially means that you don't owe allegiance to any other sovereign at the time you're in the United States. And so that was a key component of this entire argument.
And this goes back much further than just this modern debate. I mean, the birthright citizenship issue is how old in terms of the first time it was brought up?
Well, look, this issue over birthright citizenship, you're hearing arguments going back to the English common law. Before the United States was even established. But the reason it's coming up today is because of the language in the 14th Amendment, which was adopted in the late 1860s after the Civil War. And the historical circumstances, the reason we adopted the 14th Amendment in part was to make sure that the recently freed slaves and the children of those individuals would become full citizens. They could become full members of our political community. The 14th Amendment was designed in part to overrule the very bad, very erroneous Dred Scott decision that Chief Justice Roger Taney had authored before the Civil War, essentially saying that Black Americans could never become full citizens. That was obviously wrong. And Congress, the citizens at the time the 14th Amendment was ratified, wanted to make clear that that decision was wrong and that it was being overruled, and that everyone, under appropriate circumstances, regardless of race, regardless of color, could become full members of our political community.
But it didn't mean run across the border right before you drop the baby out.
Correct. And that's in part, Kevin, because if you come into our country illegally, if you're here on only a temporary basis to do birth tourism or something of that nature, you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States in the sense that term is used in the 14th Amendment. And that is the key component to this entire
There's no fealty or allegiance in that kind of scenario. And that's the only kind of people, by the way, that should be getting citizenship. I don't have a problem with dual citizenship with the few countries that want to offer it. There's increasingly fewer of them along the way. But when you're an American citizen, you have to first and foremost say that this is your home and this is who you hold your allegiance to. I just don't think there's any way around that. If you don't have that, you don't have a country. You know, you don't have a common language, common border, and common identity. That's what it all boils down to. We'll have a lot to talk about in the early part of the summer. Zach Smith, thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
Kevin McCullough coming back from Times Square. Don't go anywhere.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.
All right, welcome back. Closing out the show in the hour. Here's a brand new one from Lainey Wilson called simply Can't Sit Still.
I'm the kid in the classroom sitting on her hands. I'm a wayward Baptist trying not to dance. I've been looking in the mirror saying, girl, you gotta chill. But I can't sit still. I'm an outside dog on an inside leash. I'm a limb in the wind trying to shake off a leaf. I'm a raindrop running down a cracked windshield. I can't sit still. I ain't caught my breath since I took my first, so I guess I'll rest when I'm in the dirt. It's a sweet have a mind of their